Hi everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the first Connect online workshop. We're so excited to be here today. My name is Jen Kilpack, and I'm the Director of Communications for Community of Christ, and I'll be your moderator today. We're really excited to be able to provide this opportunity for you, and we're hosting this series of workshops today, Wednesday and Thursday, with some of our friends. I'm hearing myself like on the delay of the, can you hear that as well? Good, okay.
No.
Perfect. So we have with us today, Brittany, Parker, and Becca, representatives from Latter-day Seekers, from the Canadian marketing team, and I'll let them introduce themselves to you right now.
Hi all, I'm Becca Loving and I'm joining today from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I serve on the communications team at International Headquarters, helping with our digital marketing efforts.
Hey friends, I'm Brittany Mangelson and I am tuning in from Saratoga Springs, Utah, and I serve the church as the social media seeker ministry specialist, and I produce a lot of online content for Community of Christ. I'm the project manager for Project Zion podcast and just do a variety of things with Latter-day Seeker ministry.
Had to have one more sip of coffee. Hello, everybody. My name is Parker Johnson, and I am in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I am the Church Mission and Young Adult Ministry Specialist here in Canada West Mission Center, and I also support both Canada East Mission Center and Canada West Mission Center with public relations and marketing communications type tasks. So I'm excited to be here with you today.
Awesome, thank you. Today's topic is going to be about building an online presence, and we're going to explore the basics of using the internet to connect with seekers and members. So we'll take your questions in the comments. Anytime you want to post a question, feel free to do so. The team has a little bit of a presentation to give, and then we'll switch over to a Q&A session. Also, just wanted to let you know that these sessions are going to be recorded and available later. So if for some reason you have to jump off, or if you know someone who couldn't attend today but wanted to, they can watch it later, and we'll post that, that link on the website. So now I'll turn it over to the team, and here you go.
All right, I'm up first, and while Parker is getting up the presentation, I'll say that today we're going to be sharing 3 tasks or tips that we're encouraging congregations to do online to connect with seekers and with members. And so the first task, I have really good news because it's only going to take your congregation about 10 minutes to complete, and you only need to do it about once or twice a year. And so if you like a simple task to check off your to-do list, then this is the one. Okay, Parker, can you jump to the next slide? So before I reveal what this first task is, we're going to have a little pop quiz question. So if you had to guess, what is the 3rd most visited section on seaofchrist.org? So the answer to this question will be the first task we want your congregation to do to build relationships with seekers and members online. So if you feel comfortable, please post your answers or your guesses in the comments. While you're doing that, I just want to share a few stats about seaofchrist.org. So in 2018, our website had over 2 million pages viewed, and over 1.5 million people visited our website. I think that's really exciting, good news. So when we think about these 1 million visitors that came to our website, the first place and the most viewed section of seaofchrist.org is the homepage, seaofchrist.org. The second most visited section of the website are our worship sections, so our worship outlines. And then the answer to the question is, the 3rd most visited section of our website is the Find a Congregation section. Parker, can you jump over to the next slide, please? Okay, so Each congregation, Community of Christ congregation, has a page in the Find a Congregation section of seaofchrist.org. Visitors can access this section by typing into their browser seaofchrist.org/find-a-congregation, or they can go over to the Connect menu and click on the Find a Congregation or Mission Center link. So the website analytics that I chatted about earlier clearly show us that seaofchrist.org visitors want to visit our congregations, which is fantastic. They want to know where your congregation is located, what times you meet, and how to contact leadership. If your information on your Find a Congregation page is current, you're creating opportunities to connect with seekers and members. So on the next slide, Parker, let's take a look at an example of a Find a Congregation page. So this is the Salt Lake City Find a Congregation page on seaofchrist.org. So a congregation page can include lots of information. It can tell us the address, or if a congregation is meeting in homes, we can include information about that as well. Phone number, social media links, website link, contact information, welcome statement, worship time, information about ministries, and a map that shows where the congregation is located. If a congregation includes all of that information that I've just mentioned, fantastic. But at the very least, a congregation should have on their congregation pages an address, contact information, and worship times. So earlier, we talked about some analytics, some data about seaofchrist.org. So this Salt Lake City congregation page in August 2019, so last month, it received over 75 unique page views. So for this congregation, that represents 75 opportunities to connect with individuals interested in visiting them. If their page isn't up to date, they've missed out on that opportunity. But when it is updated, the congregation is opening its doors and saying, welcome, come worship with us, which is amazing. So the very first thing that I want you all to do once you're done with this presentation is go to your Find a Congregation page on seaofchrist.org and update the information on your page if needed. Okay, so there's task number one. I'm going to hand over to Brittany for task number two.
All right. So I am going to be talking about Facebook a little bit later in the week. My day for Facebook will be Thursday, but I wanted to dive in first and give a high overview of the one task I think you should do, have your congregation do on Facebook. So Parker, if you would go forward a slide. We are going to be talking about Facebook pages. And really quick before we dive into this, I want to just stress the importance of your congregation having a presence on Facebook. My ministry is with Latter-day Seekers, and I hang out in a lot of spaces on Facebook. And I can tell you that Latter-day Seekers are searching for your congregation on Facebook. I get contacted by Latter-day Seekers weekly with different questions about the dynamics of your congregations, the events, the worship times, etc. So having an updated Facebook presence for your congregation is very important. So I want to talk about Facebook pages very briefly today. So Parker, can you go forward? Thank you. So I've attached a screenshot of the Calgary Facebook page. And if you will notice on the left-hand side, there's a lot of different tabs. So you can build this page pretty thoroughly. And honestly, you can put every bit of information that your congregation needs to be able to share on your Facebook page. But what I wanted to focus on today was this little about section, because I think that it gives your most basic information that really connects with what Becca just shared, as well as what Parker will share in a few minutes. So I want you to think about your public Facebook page as kind of your billboard. There are many different ways your congregation can be on Facebook, but your Facebook page is your public face of your congregation. So what I want you to look at is on this Calgary page, you can see that they have listed their address, their email address, a phone number. They've got their mission statement. They even have information about their parking situation. They link to their website. They have an About Me section. And they also, on the right-hand side, have a little blurb that tells the history of their congregation. So if I'm a new seeker and I type in Calgary Community of Christ, I will find this Facebook page, and it's branded correctly with our church seal as the profile picture. You can't see in this screenshot, but the cover album picture is a Doctrine and Covenants scripture that's very invitational and welcoming. And then I can click on this About section, and I can find basically all the information that I would need to know where to go and how to get to the congregation. I will say, because Facebook is set up for businesses, they have business hours, which then show that you are closed if you're not actively at the congregation. So that is one thing that's kind of a bummer, that it shows that the congregation's closed, which basically just signals that they are not currently worshiping in their building at this moment. But I assume that they've put in their Sunday hours. So when it is their Sunday hours, if you were to get on, it would show that it was open. So I also want to point you down to the bottom right-hand side. It's kind of tricky to see, but it says team members. And if you were able to keep scrolling there, you would see that the team member that's listed is a woman named Amy Cartwright. And this is really important for Facebook pages, because not only do I, as a seeker, have the opportunity to then connect with the page, I can message the page and get a message back, but I also have a actual human face-to-face contact with the congregation. So I think that this is important, especially since we are a church that is built on relationships. This shows that you are able to have a face to a name, and it's not just a congregation Facebook page that doesn't have an actual person attached to it. So my tip, most congregations have Facebook pages already, but like Becca, I would just urge you to go look at your Facebook page and look at it as if you knew nothing about your congregation. And particularly go to the About section and see if you could figure out how to get to your congregation, if you could contact the pastor, and just see what information you would be able to figure out if you were visiting that page and that congregation for the first time. So if you are an admin with your congregation Facebook page, just give it a look and see what you can update. See if you can list yourself as a team member, because again, that just gives it a personable feel. And again, since we are a church, I think that that's a really important aspect to have. And yeah, we're going to be diving in a lot more about Facebook and the use of Facebook later this week, but the About page on your congregation Facebook page is what I wanted to stress most today. So now we will turn it over to Parker.
Hello, everybody. I am just so impressed with how much we're able to get in these little 5-minute mini presentations leading up to more information. So good job, everybody. Like Brittany and Becca, the portion of this that I'm going to be going through for Google My Business, the name of the game is all about getting the right information out there in front of the right people. And we are talking about 3 different ways that we recommend you do that. Google My Business, otherwise known as Google, is a huge area of improvement for Community of Christ and most churches, I think I would say. And that's because what do we all use to find anything? I mean, I think searching for a church online today is a lot like searching for a KFC. So you'll find the location on a map, of course, but you'll also find, the hours of operation, contact information, customer reviews, photos that your visitors may have posted of your location, both interior and exterior. And there's also a 5-star rating system. Yes, people rate churches. When people search for your church, Google includes information on your church's location in the search results, regardless of whether or not you have a Google My Business account. So having a Google My Business account ensures that you can control what seekers see when they see your congregation for the first time online. Without a Google My Business account, theoretically anybody with an internet connection can suggest edits to your location, including hours of operation, parking, phone number, physical address, email, photos, and more. So I'm going to pull up just a screenshot I have of, sorry, skipped one, here we go, of what you get whenever you search for my congregation, the Calgary, Alberta congregation. So you'll see on the right side is kind of a preview of our Google profile. So there's photos that I have posted along with a pin drop on a map and a street view from Google Maps, all kind of bunched together on the right side, along with a button for our website, which I was able to link to directions for folks who are looking to map their way to our location. And then there's a save feature as well for folks who do have a Google account and would like to save favorite locations on their own profile. So as I said, there's a 5-star rating just beneath there. There's 2 Google reviews, it says, and it has our address, our location, and our hours of operation. And like Brittany said for Facebook, they use business terminology here. So you're talking about when it says closed, it's not meaning that it's been shuttered. It's just that it's not operating right now. They're not meeting right now. And then at least on Google, it does say it opens at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday. So that's helpful. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's a preview of links from our website, seaofchristyyc.ca. That's the congregation's website. And what we've tried to do, speaking of Amy Cartwright, Brittany mentioned her as a team member on the Calgary Facebook page, is I worked with Amy to figure out, when you were looking at us online, what was missing? What did you need to find that you didn't see? What were you looking for that we didn't have covered? And so we actually incorporated an entire section to our website called What to Expect. So you'll see that as one of the 4 there. And that helps to alleviate some of the concerns, barriers to entry, like, are kids welcome here? What does typical service look like? How long are these services? What do I wear? You know, those types of questions. And it really helps to kind of alleviate some of those concerns. We also have a dynamic announcement section, which allows visitors to have actual up-to-date news posts about maybe upcoming events or registration deadlines, along with history and about. And then the second preview there on below, Calgary Congregation Community of Christ in Canada. That is for the entire Canadian church, communityofchrist.ca. We also have a congregational profile there. And if it's cut off on here, but the third one is the World Church's Find a Congregation page for Calgary. So that I can't reiterate how important it is that these are the first 3 that any seeker would find, because in these 3 places, it's most likely that our information is going to be as current as possible. So if you do have a Google My Business account, you can update and manage this information easily. I can add photos just from my phone. There's an app that you can get if I take a great shot of somebody reading a book, like in this case, Brennan's reading a book on a Sunday morning. I wanted to add that, and it's really easy to change those out. Having an account allows you to add phone numbers, website links, photos of your building, maybe interior photos as well, just to kind of, again, ensure that people feel comfortable knowing what they're about to walk into. You can also respond to reviews. If someone didn't have a great experience, you can actually publicly respond to their review to try to address any sort of misunderstandings or improve your welcoming as you go forward. And I guess the biggest takeaway here is if you don't have an account, you cannot manage this stuff. And that's the biggest issue, is that if you don't have one of these accounts, anybody, like I said, can say, well, I drove by and it looked closed. I think they're permanently closed. And you'll get a notification if you have an account that someone's trying to mark you as permanently closed. But if you don't have that account, it could just turn up that your church disappears from Google Maps. And we don't want that. I want to also just point out a quick story here, 2 stories. I was traveling in Canada East a while back and was trying to find a congregation that I was supposed to be meeting with. and I couldn't find it, and I couldn't find it. And finally, I just thought, well, I'm going to search for RLDS, the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and see what comes up. That has not been our name since 2001, but I wanted to see if that was where it was. And lo and behold, that's how that church was still classified. And it went so far to even say Mormon church in like the description. So outdated information like that must be updated. And the same thing kind of happened. I saw another congregation in the US that someone checked in at, and it said Community of Christ, but at the bottom in the descriptor, it said Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So it's clear that someone hasn't claimed those locations, and we need to be doing a better job of being clear and transparent about where we are and how people can find us. Because if you remove those barriers, I think you'll see that many people will actually come out and visit you and come see you on a Sunday morning. I think that's all I have. So I'm going to pass it back to Becca. Oh, actually, before I go, I'm sorry. The deeper dive into all of this will be tomorrow. So if you want more information on Google My Business, I'll be going into more of the nuts and bolts tomorrow. So let me know if you have any questions in the chat box below.
So I'm actually going to pass back to Jen, who's going to moderate some questions for us, I think.
Yes. We've got a question from Mike, who was wondering, is it better to use a page or a group? I assume this is on Facebook, where we're talking about the difference between pages and groups. So maybe a little bit of information about the difference between the two, and then opinions about which is better.
So I will start with that one. The differences between a Facebook page and a Facebook group. A Facebook page is, again, kind of your public billboard. It is where you can create events, where you can post memes, you can post links that direct people to World Church website. If the USA Team of Apostles releases a statement, that's a place where you can publicly share that. And so I for sure say that you need a Facebook page. I think that having a Facebook page really increases your social media real estate. It's claiming that spot for your congregation. And this is a invitational space where you can be welcoming and inviting and post the latest happenings of your congregation. So a Facebook group is very different. It's more of a conversation facilitator. You can invite people to your group. That's where you can post things like prayer requests, or, hey, I need a substitute for my class, or it's more of an in-house thing. It's more of an in-house way to communicate with people in your congregation. So I generally would recommend that only the people who are in your congregation be part of your Facebook group, just because the way that I would recommend using it is a way to just keep people up to date with what's going on in the congregation, just a way to facilitate communication. Facebook is very into community building, and so they really favor groups, which means that your group can just kind of end up, if you notice, if you're scrolling through Facebook, sometimes on the side it will give suggested groups or suggested pages and things that you might be interested in. The more that you use your group, the more that it will appear in that sidebar. But groups are just a great way to foster community. I know that I am in, about a zillion Facebook groups. Some of them only have 3 or 4 people in them, and some of them have thousands of people in them. And so we will definitely dive deep into Facebook groups on Thursday, but I would recommend that congregations have both. I wouldn't say that one is more important than the other, just because they serve such different functions. So again, a Facebook page is your public-facing page. It's not a place where people go for conversations. They just go there to find information, to find links, to find dates, events, etc. And then your Facebook group is where the conversations and kind of the community building happens.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the different settings of groups, or the different kinds of groups in terms of public and private?
Yes, so I very briefly, I'm gonna get into that a lot on Thursday, but there are different.
Spill all your
Well-
secrets.
Yes, there are different settings as far as privacy goes. And I would recommend that you have something that is searchable, but that people cannot see what is posted. So I'll get into more of that later. And Facebook did recently update what they call those, and it's actually not rolled out everywhere yet. So on Thursday, I'll kind of give you the options of what they might be depending on your area. I know for me, I can't see the upgraded or the updated names for Facebook groups. So currently on my end, it still says closed, and then secret and public, I think, are what those are. But I mean, a high level secret means that you cannot search it. So if I were to search Brittany's cotton candy making party, and if that's a secret Facebook page, you wouldn't be able to search that, but I could send the link to someone. I would not recommend that congregations do that. I would recommend they go the closed route, so it can be searched for, but people can't see what is happening inside of the group. So there's that. More on Thursday.
More on Thursday. Excellent. We had a question from Connie about Google business accounts. She wondered if there was a cost associated with having a Google business account.
Good question. Actually, no, there is not, and especially for nonprofits. You'll find as we kind of drill down into some of this, and it might be a conversation topic in the future, there is something called Google for Nonprofits, which we also qualify for as a church. And so future conversations can take place about that. But the short answer to your question is no cost is associated with Google My Business. There's a verification process that takes place that you have to, it's actually a fun little challenge. It's like a Easter egg hunt in some ways, because you have to be, if you have a phone number for your church, for example, that's listed with Google, they can call and give you an automated code. And if you're able to physically be there and pick up the phone, then that's a checkbox for them to say, okay, well, this person must actually be associated with the organization and can claim it. If you don't have a phone, they can mail you a postcard to the church address, things like that. But we'll get more into the details of the process tomorrow whenever we meet for that topic.
I'll unmute myself. Karen had a question, a very specific question. Karen, I'm going to actually ask you to contact us through the web email address. Karen helps out with the Journey House Campus Ministry Center in Michigan, and was wondering about how to make that more visible on the Find a Congregation page. So Beck, I don't know if you want to chat about that for a sec or just have her contact us, but I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, it's Karen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Karen, if you just email web@seaofchrist.org, Jen or myself will respond to your question, but we'll make sure to help you out with that specific need.
And there's a little bit of a delay between like the Zoom connection that Parker, Brittany, Becca, and I are on, and the Facebook portal that you all are watching through. So we've just posted up a poll, so we'll see how long that takes for people to respond to. In the meantime, we've got another question from Deb. How important is it for a congregation to have a website if linked to these other sources? So is it, I guess the question is it important for you to have a standalone website if you're connected through these other venues? Don't all jump at once.
I'll take a stab at this. I think what we've tried to do is force order by importance steps you can take to be visible online. So step one, find your congregation, the first thing we talked about with Becca. Step two, a Facebook page, what Brittany talked about. I would argue step three would still be Google My Business just to get your search results correct. And then step four, I would say, would be a congregational website. And that's only to say that we want to make sure that we're satisfying all of the basic information. Where do you meet? When do you meet? You know, what types of programs do you offer? How do I get in touch with you? What can I expect? Those types of things that could maybe just be housed on the Find a Congregation page and on a Facebook page. Once those things are satisfied, I think then you can work on a congregational website. But first things first, would be these things that we're talking about today.
Anyone else want to jump in?
No, that was perfect.
Well, I'll just say that websites generally take a lot more maintenance and upkeep. And so knowing the capacity of whoever you have working on these things is really important. And so I would rather see, like Parker said, your congregation doing these 3 things really well, and then just not even worrying about a website, as opposed to being outdated in these 3 areas and then working your tail off trying to maintain a website. So I do think that we have really tried to prioritize in order what we recommend.
Let's see. So we've published results for, I'm looking at my other screen here. Does your congregation have current information on your page at seaofchrist.org? 52% of those watching said yes, 6% said no, and 42% said I'm not sure. So that is your task from Becca, to go out and check and see if your information is up to date. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Lois made a comment that sometimes, when this is a comment to us, sometimes when we're talking over each other, it's hard for them to hear because it blocks out the sound. So we'll try not to interrupt each other. We're sorry. Deb said, thanks, Brittany. Websites also cost money and they're difficult to maintain, so the other options are really great. Anyone else have additional questions they want to throw in the comments for us? I was going to see, we'll post another poll question here in a second. While you're thinking of all of your burning questions that you wanted to always ask us. All right, let's see how many of you have a Facebook page. Peg Weisner says she updated her congregational info a while back and it's updated on their Mission Center site, but not on the seaofchrist.org website. Do you want to maybe talk about how to make sure that we get the information?
Sure. So on the Find a Congregation page, as I mentioned before, each congregation has their own page. So you go to your page and there's a little box on there that says, I think, update your information. So you click on that box and you fill out the form. It looks like a long form, but you really only need to complete the sections that need to be updated on seaofchrist.org. You submit that form and we're pretty good. Within 24, 48 hours, your information on seaofchrist.org is updated. So again, you'd find that update your information box on your congregation's page.
Thank you. Let's see here.
Can I just make a quick comment as well?
Yes.
Okay. So being as how I'm in Canada, I wanted to just reference the fact that there's the Find a Congregation page on the World Church website. The new Canadian website, communityofchrist.ca, also does have congregational pages as well. And each page has a similar setup as the World Church's website. So what you'll find is a link there that says update my info. You'll follow the same kind of prompts that Becca just went over with the World Church. And it's to your benefit that you have your updated information in all of the places in which the church provides a congregational page for you. So anytime you make a change, say the pastor changes or something, it's important that you update those to World Church. And if you're in Canada, please also recommend an update to your communityofchrist.ca page, and we'll just make sure that we'll get all those things done accordingly. I'm the one making the updates to communityofchrist.ca, so I will pledge to follow the 24 to 48 hours rule as well.
Dorothy made a comment too that many congregational recorders are the ones who actually go out and update that information on the World Church page, at least by filling out the form for us. So if you have a recorder in your congregation that is willing to do that, that'd be a great thing for them to do periodically, is to check your Find a Congregation page on seeofchrist.org and make sure that information is up to date. Let's see, there were two other questions here. One, Peg said that she's updated her congregation info a while back. Nope, that's the one that I just read. Sorry, Peg, I'm repeating your question. Here we go, from Gail. Is there some standard way to name Facebook groups that's recommended by World Church?
That's a great question. I would say the name of your congregation and then Community of Christ. So I'm in the Salt Lake City congregation, so our Facebook page, our Facebook group says Salt Lake City Community of Christ. So people know where it is and what it is. That would be my recommendation, but I don't know if everyone follows that, which I think is fine. Whatever would signal to your group of people to be able to find you. Because again, seekers aren't necessarily looking for Facebook groups to join that are connected to a congregation. They first want to check out the basic information of the congregation. It's kind of like walking into the doors of your congregation in a Facebook setting. So usually they want to check out what they're getting themselves into before they enter into the group.
Sorry, this is kind of probably a silly analogy, but I heard once that Facebook pages are like the front of your house. It's the front part of your house. It's the public facing part. So you do the landscaping all pretty, and then your Facebook group is the backyard of your house. So that's where you invite your friends. That's where you have deep conversations and connect with one another. So that's another way to think about Facebook pages and Facebook groups. And Brittany may mention this more on Thursday when she talks about the basics of Facebook, but international headquarters, with some help with some people from the area, developed a Facebook 101 document that talks a little bit about some branding and visuals that you can add to your Facebook pages and Facebook groups. So the cover image at the top or the profile image, but I'm sure we'll be chatting more about those on Thursday.
Thank you. Linda had a comment about the Google feature. So it said, when I Google our congregation, it does bring up a picture of our church, but when I click on the website, it takes them directly to the World Church website instead of a congregational link.
I'm not sure if you have a congregational website, but what's likely happened is that someone reported an update to Google to say, I think this is the church that this congregation belongs to provide that information. So it's likely that someone was just trying to be a good Samaritan and put your information on there as best they knew it. But if you do have better information, or if you'd like to link directly to your Find a Congregation page, claiming that Google My Business account and location would allow you to make that change.
Thanks. Wendy's wondering if there are people in various areas around who can help congregations that may not have people available to do all these steps that we're suggesting today.
So I operate from a let's do our very best to keep ownership of content and information at the local level. In Canada, Wendy, I know you're in Canada, so I'm speaking to this. I am happy if I'm in the area to go and support locally. I know John Hamer and Leandro Palacios are also willing in the area to assist with various things like this, because essentially for the Google My Business side, it's kind of, there are things that you can do to maintain that section, but it's also kind of a one and done type task. If you can claim it, get your information correct, as long as you're not changing very frequently, you're not going to need to be on there a lot. So it probably seems like a monstrous task on the front end, but rest assured that once you get it done, it's not like you're going to be spending copious amounts of time trying to stay on top of it. So I will just say I am a resource available to you. So are John Hamer and Leandro Palacios in Ontario. If you're in the US, I will let someone else answer that question for the local level. But it's usually a staffing question, right? And just geographic different distances, so.
Thank you. We had someone else asking about names, and this, track that down again. What if there are multiple congregations? And the example was, this is from Jeff, like a standard church or congregation, and then also a cell group. Jeff, you may have to give us a little bit more information in the comment, like if you can reply to that question. Are you talking specifically about Facebook groups, or about the Find a Congregation feature, or Google My Business, or all three? While I'm waiting for that to get updated, let's see. Vern kind of asked the same question about that their congregation is very fortunate to have tech experts to help with social media, but other congregations that maybe don't have that, is there a place for them to get help? Someone who came to our World Conference seminar suggested maybe like connecting with a local high school, or with a local maybe junior college or community college, to see if there would be students who might be willing to come and do work, as an internship, or just as some work experience. So that was an interesting idea that I'd not thought of before. So that might be something to keep in mind.
And one thing I found across mission centers is that you'll find that someone in your mission center is savvy on most things that you're looking to do. And if you can put the request out there, maybe with your mission center leadership, I'm sure they can do their best to connect you back to someone who's somewhat local to you. Maybe you could host a regional kind of workshop to deal with it all together. But I would try that route first, of course. And then if I think also the internship option is also a really great suggestion as well.
Linda had a question about, is it possible maybe to have a workshop with groups wanting to update or create these types of communications? And would that be realistic for us to host? So, food for thought. We'll keep that in mind. It's a great idea. This is actually kind of a test case for us, these 3 workshops, to see how they go and how they're received from the user and the viewer's perspective. Because it's a fairly simple way for us to at least connect with you, but we'll have some opportunities for you to give feedback to us about how the format of this worked. So thanks for that idea, and we'll add it to our list. I had one other question up here a little bit further from Mr. Benson. Mark. He said, I consider myself fairly tech savvy. He said, but I am old. I don't know. We have a closed Facebook group, but not a Facebook page. And I can see the importance of both, but it does sound like a bit of work and time involvement. I'm concerned about getting it right. Which is more important if I had to choose one over the other? A lot of people in our congregation are aging, and most do not use Facebook. So Brittany, I don't know if you want to jump all the way into that, or invite him to join you on Thursday, or just maybe talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, well, I'll give a few sentences and then again, welcome him to join us on Thursday for further discussion. But what I will say is another way that you can think of the differences is a Facebook page is a bit more missional in the sense of being invitational. Again, I really like the analogy that Becca gave that a Facebook page is kind of your front door. So this is what people will search for to just get basic information. So while I do recommend that you keep your Facebook page active and update with events and maybe pictures in your congregation, although pictures can get tricky on Facebook pages, so don't get too excited because there's some legal issues that we can run into there that we'll talk about later. But it does take some update and some maintenance. I wouldn't say that it's difficult to navigate, but it does take some time. And so if you have a Facebook group that is working and that you are building community and creating relationships and that it is working for you, keep doing that. I think that if you don't have a Facebook page, that makes it even more important to make sure that your information is updated on the World Church website, as well as Google. So if you're gonna drop the public face of one of these, make sure that your other public faces are strong, if that makes sense. So if you don't have a Facebook page, at least make sure that your group is strong and working and functioning the way that you need it to, and then make sure that your online presence on the World Church website is strong and that you have a Google My Business account.
Thank you. Just so that you all can see, I think it's been published to the comment stream, but I can't exactly see. So the question about does your congregation have a Facebook page, 73% of you who are viewing said yes, 23% said no, and 5% said I'm not sure. That's an interesting and pretty significant stat there. Donna from Stone Church says that she has, or they have a Facebook page and they've had it for about a year. And their question is like, where do we find encouraging posts with quotes or comments from past or present ministers other than YouTube? How, I guess I'm adding this part. It's about sharing content. So who wants to jump into that?
Well, I'll say everyone should be following the Community of Christ Facebook page. We release or publish something on there just about every single day. And so if you're looking for content to share on your Facebook page or on your Facebook group, it's an easy place to take information. Please, we would love for you to do that. So that's my tip.
And piggybacking off of that, I run the Latter-day Seeker Facebook page, and we also are constantly creating content that I have found meaningful in my journey with Community of Christ. And so I create a lot of memes. I tie back to mission stories that I find meaningful on Community of Christ webpage. And there's also Project Zion podcast. We publish 2 brand new podcasts every single week. And so that's another place that you can go to just share what's happening in the church.
One other question about Facebook. How do you determine if you have a Facebook page versus a Facebook group? Like, how can you tell the difference?
That's a good question. So if you search for your congregation in the search bar, see what comes up. They look very different, and I will have screenshots of what a full page looks like compared to a group. So you should be able to visually tell. But if you do a search for your congregation, I'm trying to jump on really quick. If I just type in Salt Lake City Community of Christ, then both the page and the group pop up in the search results. And so it really is as easy as just searching for it and seeing what comes up. If you have it, that means that somebody in your congregation has created it. So there's a chance that it's been created, but it's just been docile for months, years, however long. So maybe try, if you do find that you have something, but it just hasn't been updated, or you never see it showing up in your feed because it doesn't it just doesn't get updated. Then find out who is the admin, and then see if you can get something going and help it get a little more traction and traffic.
Mike Hoffman made a good point. He said you can follow Graceland University too. They post quite a bit of really great content as well. Thanks, Mike, for that. Jeff replied back to us about his earlier question. He said actually all three. So they have a cell group in Lawrence Community of Christ. Our cell group has Lawrence Community of Christ, and we use University Outsiders that don't use the university congregation that don't know the university congregation is in Lawrence. So I think it's called University Congregation, but maybe because the name isn't Lawrence Congregation, they don't know that it's there. So they've got two different kind of issues going on there. Jeff, that might require a personal consultation or an email, but I'll let the team jump in on that and see if we can answer some questions for you today.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, it's basically that it's a congregation that doesn't have a city in the title. Like my congregation, Salt Lake, but it sounds like the congregation name is not directly tied to the actual location, if I'm understanding it correctly.
I think probably for like for Facebook, or they have a cell group that the name of that is Lawrence Community of Christ, and but they use university probably in the title because outsiders don't know that University Congregation is in Lawrence. Yes.
Okay.
I'm reading that properly now.
Okay, because I'm just thinking, there's a lot of congregations, especially in the Independence area, that it's not the Independence congregation or, the Kansas City congregation, like Open Arms, for instance, or, there's a huge variety of them. So whatever your congregation is called, I would say that is what you should name your page and your group, et cetera, after. If you have kind of an umbrella, I think that in Utah, there was a time where we had a page called like Utah Community of Christ, but we really quickly realized that there was just so many working parts with the different congregations and the different house churches, and it just kind of becomes a mess really quickly if you're trying to promote or display a lot of congregations under one umbrella. So I would suggest every group, not necessarily every ministry within a group, but every group that gathers, that has a pastor, that is a functioning congregation, that they have a separate online presence for themselves, and then name it whatever your congregation is called. And then just, if you are university but you're in Lawrence, then just make sure that your address clearly states where you're at.
I'll also just add here that where you're located when you're searching matters. So it's also going to pull up the closest location to you. So I'm seeing a question about Liberty Community of Christ versus Liberty Street Community of Christ. If I type in Liberty Community of Christ, depending on my proximity to both of those locations, it's probably going to pull up the closest one first, depending on where I'm at. So you can only do so much, and I think just being clear about the actual legal name is the most important thing. And then if people really want to find you, they're going to search for Community of Christ, and it's going to pull up all the locations on a map that they can pick from, as long as those congregations are up to date on their information. So location does matter. So for example, when I shared my screen, or I had the slide rather on the PowerPoint, on mine, I'm sitting in Calgary, Alberta. When I search for Calgary Community of Christ, it's the first thing that pops up. It might not be for you. They might try to find like Calvary, something different near you, because it's trying to locate something that you can actually map to, or that you're more likely to be actually trying to find. So that does matter. I just wanted to point that out.
There's a couple of specific Facebook questions, and Brittany, you can decide whether you want to answer these now or try to dive into these a little bit later. Some of them are just with some admin issues. So Deb says that she's having trouble getting admin access. The person who has current admin access tries to add her, but she keeps getting a message that says there's a problem. So I don't know if that's a settings issue, or that may just have to be something that we work through with her via email probably. So Deb, if you want to send us maybe a copy of the message to the web address, theweb@seaofchrist.org, we can maybe give you some ideas about how to walk through that. And then Susan says that someone started a Facebook page in 2001 and it was last updated in 2016, but they cannot discover who the admin is. Any suggestions on how to find out?
That's tricky. I'm going to do some research and I'll get back to you on Thursday. But if you haven't tried this already, try messaging the page, because whoever the admin is, if they're still on Facebook, they will get a notification saying that a message has come in. So maybe you can say, hey, who is this? Please add me, or whatever. So that would be my first suggestion, but I will look into that a little bit more and see what I can find.
Stay tuned for Thursday. We're just about at the end of our hour and we want to respect everyone's time. It looks like most of, I think, our questions have been answered. So one last publish results of your Google business. Google Business is where we have the most work to do, everyone. 14% said yes, their congregation does have a Google My Business account. 48% said no, and 38% said I'm not sure. So we have a lot of growth there that we could take advantage of. So any other, let's see, let's say I have maybe, one last question. So it looks like, you know, something to maybe think about for you, Brittany, is what to do when a group that's named for your congregation is like kind of defunct, like no one's been, it's been inactive since it looks like 2012. So maybe just some tips on how to go about either reclaiming that or starting something new, etc. So Linda, stay tuned for answers or suggestions on Thursday. And just wanted to thank everyone for coming today. Anybody else want to say something before we close out this session?
I'm just so glad to see such great participation. So thanks for coming. And this has been really fun. Looking forward to being back tomorrow.
Yep,
Yeah, I just want to echo that. And, you know, I think we're going to be talking about a lot of heavier things. People seem kind of a little bit nervous about social media and that, but we're here to help. So we're all in this together.
I just want to echo that too. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us. I know that we're looking forward to being with you all on Wednesday and Thursday to talk about Google and on Facebook. Both of those sessions start at noon Central on our Facebook page. So just like today, you hop on our Facebook page and you're able to connect to those. I just want to mention one other thing before we close out, if that's okay. So we mentioned a few resources today. Those can be found on www.seaofchrist.org/connect. While you're there, you'll also see that there is a box with the word survey on it. Click on that link and please take a few minutes to complete that survey. Your feedback is very valuable to us and it helps us produce and plan our future online workshops. So we want to know how this experience went for you and what ideas you have for us for the future. If you have other questions that were not answered today, or if you're watching this on playback, you can send those to communications@seaofchrist.org. That is all I had.
Fantastic. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to see some of you or all of you back tomorrow. And we'll see you in about 23 hours. Bye.
Bye, guys.